7 mistakes home sellers make when seeking out a cash offer that ends up costing them tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and how to avoid it. Mistake number 1, not requesting multiple cash offers for their property. When we speak to sellers, almost every single time when they've gone out and sought out cash offers for their house, they've only spoken to one cash buyer, and they just take what that person says as gospel, that, well, that must be what it is. And that is not the case. If you're going to maximize the value of your property and get the highest cash offer for your property, you need to talk to a minimum of 5 cash buyers, more like shoot for 10. I know it's a pain, but it'll make a huge difference in your bottom line. One example that we have is that we started out with a seller who spoke to a cash buyer, and we ended up bringing them another cash offer about a week later for almost $250,000 difference by putting a bunch of cash buyers against each other. Mistake number 2, not negotiating with these cash buyers. So even if you go out and you find 5 cash buyers and they give you offers, a lot of times sellers, because you know what, look, this isn't what you do all day long, and you probably don't like getting involved in negotiations and what might be perceived as conflict, right? And you are afraid to negotiate with these cash buyers. And instead of going back to them saying, hey, here's the 5 offers I've got, give me more. And then when somebody gives you a better offer, you go back to them again. And then you keep doing that until you get to the highest price. But a lot of sellers, they take those offers that they do get and they just look at them as, well, that's our choices. No, that is not the case. You can negotiate. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Always negotiate. Mistake number 3, and this is a big one, is letting a middleman or a wholesaler lock up your property. And this is the actual term that they use when they're talking about it in their trainings and in their forums and things. They say, go out and lock up the property. In other words, get it under contract with you, and they have no intention of actually being the one to purchase your property. What they are is a middleman. All they do is they lock up your property at a certain price, and then they spend the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we've seen it go 3-4 months, where they've dragged it on to try to find a replacement buyer, a real cash buyer, who will pay them more than the agreed upon price that they offered you. And the problem with this is that, number 1, you're locked up, the property's locked up, and you can't sell it to somebody else. But number 2, that difference that they negotiate, that doesn't go to you. That goes to them. That is their assignment fee or their novation fee that they get when they find that replacement cash buyer. When you, the seller, in fact, should have been the one getting the offer from that original cash buyer, from that real cash buyer. The problem is it's a little tricky to know if you're working with a wholesaler. If you have any questions about it before you sign anything, let me take a look at it, and I'll be happy to tell you if it's a wholesaler. And I want to give you one example. There was one that we were aware of recently that closed where the wholesaler locked in a price with that seller. They found a replacement buyer, and that what they ended up doing is the replacement buyer ended up paying them $75,000 as an assignment fee, a big chunk of money. And at close, the seller didn't even get $75,000 when they closed, but the wholesaler got $75,000. Is that right? Mistake number 4 is falling for the great big smile. And what I mean by that is that, think about it. You would never buy anything or give away anything to anyone who wasn't super friendly and just helpful and just, wow, they seem really nice, and they, your dog, is okay with them and things like that. You would never give away anything to somebody like that, right? Well, these wholesalers, cash buyers, everybody, these investors, they know this and they talk about it all the time. You got to be super friendly when you go to these sellers, that's you, and try to convince them to give away a big chunk of their income so that they can make a whole bunch of money. And you have to remember, this investor, this cash buyer, this wholesaler, whoever it is, They have no obligation or requirement to look out for your best interest whatsoever. None at all. And this is, in fact, one of the reasons why so much legislation is coming down about wholesaling and cash buying and flipping and things like that, is because they'll go in and they'll take all your equity if you let them. And then you're left with nothing or little when you should have gotten a whole lot more than that. But the way they do it is with a smile. Here's a story real quick. In a investor forum, I read an article or a story written by one of the investors who explained that he went to a little old lady, tried to buy her house. She was set on a price, wouldn't budge off of that price. He went back again and talked to her, and when she was talking to him, she's like, well, I got to do the dishes. And she started hobbling over to the kitchen sink to do the dishes with her cane and everything. He said, oh, no. Hey, you sit down. Let me do the dishes for you. As a result of doing the dishes, this little old lady said, you know what? You've been so nice. You've been so friendly. I'm going to let you have your price. The difference in that price, $50,000. So that was $50,000 worth of dishes that he just did, that he gets to put in his pocket and he took away from her. So be careful about that smile. Understand who you're dealing with. They're a wolf in sheep's clothing. Mistake number 5 is expecting to get full retail value when you're trying to deal with a cash buyer. Now, when we're talking about cash buyers, we're talking about these cash buyer investors, right? And what do cash buyer investors do? They buy low and they sell high. That is their job. That is their business model. That's their goal every single time. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's investing. But we're not talking about somebody who maybe just happened to get a big inheritance and now they're going to buy a house and pay cash for it, retail value, so that they have a forever home for their family to live in. Yes, that happens from time to time, but very, very far and few between. Most people are getting some sort of financing for their house. So when you're expecting full retail value from a cash buyer, then your expectations are unrealistic, and that you should be looking more to go a retail route. And that's okay. We have great strategies that we use to make sure that our retail sellers still get their homes sold super fast in any market and end up getting the very best price possible all the time. So we'd be happy to talk to you about that if that is the route you think you need to go. Mistake number 6 is believing that you're going to get more money in the end by not paying real estate commissions. Now, look, I've been in this business for 25 years, and I know for a fact that there's a whole bunch of people in this real estate business who should not be in this real estate business. Okay, but let's just take them out of the picture. When you figure out what the commission that a real estate agent would charge you to get your home sold, that is always going to be a whole lot less than what you would pay that buyer investor, that cash buyer investor, who's going to take way more of your equity. Yet they create the common enemy of the real estate agent. Don't pay no stinking real estate commissions. Just give us all of your equity instead. But when you have a real estate professional working for you, what ends up happening is you get somebody who's looking out for your best interest all the time, every time. And because they get paid on an incentive, their goal is to get you the highest price as well. The trick is finding someone who understands how to sell your type of property, whatever it is, whether it's a fixer-upper, it's a probate, it's a trust, or it is just a family home that needs to get sold. It's been outdated. It is different than just selling a beautiful, perfect luxury house that everybody already wants. If you have questions about that, let me know. I'll get you pointed in the right direction. And finally, mistake number 7 is not seeking the help of a professional in general, right? There's a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of family, other people who have maybe only sold 1 or 2 homes in their entire life, and for some reason, they're experts. And they're going to give you advice. And oftentimes, we've proven it over and over and over again. Oftentimes, it's bad advice. It's not the right advice. And so, even though this is how we make a living, is by helping people buy and sell homes, we're still always happy to have a good conversation with you and get you pointed in the right direction and make give you good advice. If you ever are speaking to someone and you feel like you're pressured to do something, well, fine, find somebody else. There's a lot of real estate agents out there. Also, you could talk to attorneys. You can talk to other legal professionals, title and escrow people, and that sort of thing that could get you pointed in the right direction every single time. But you can skip all that. If you want, there's a button down below or a link in the description, depending on where you're seeing this video, where you can just schedule a phone call with me. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. You don't have to sell anything with me. I would love it if you do, but you don't have to. And I will get you pointed in the right direction so that you know. And we have one of the best cash offer networks out there. But we're not working for the best interest of the cash buyers. I want to be clear about that. We are working for your best interest and making sure that those cash buyers are competing every single time. So click the button or click the link and schedule a call with me right now so that we can have a great conversation and get your home sold in whatever is the right strategy for you. I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.